Hey everyone, my name is Shoaib. I'm the founder of Mecha and we are building the Mecha Comet. Thanks for joining our first Mecha Live event. We're super excited to share everything we have been working on and couldn't wait for this day to come. There'll be a Q&A section at the end. You can ask your questions on the live chat. We hope you have a good time today. Now let's get started. We'll start with some recap of the past few months. CES 2025 was phenomenal for us, almost like a dream come true. We have been covered by major tech media outlets, some popular YouTubers, and we even hit front page on Hacker News. All over YouTube, Reddit, there have been so many discussions around the Comet, mostly pretty good and few snarky as hell. Some people on YouTube have identified me as the underpaid sales rep for Mecha, most of which is true. You can see some of the features codes from Engadget, Tom's Hardware, How to Geek, and even TechRadar. Building the Comet has been a 3 years long journey for our team. We are a team of 10 to 12 folks. We've collaborated with close to 100 folks to get here. I'll quickly show some numbers. Our Discord community has grown to 3,500 members. So many folks with different backgrounds, expertise, and interest have joined in. Most of our announcements today is a result of a number of conversations we have had with members on the server. Apart from Discord, our website hit 300K page views, and we have close to 23,000 signups on Kickstarter and our mailing list. Magically, the YouTube algorithms loved our teaser so much that we hit 14,000 subscribers on our channel. Now, without much ado, let's switch focus to the Comet. Okay, Comet equal to Comet plus 1. I'll explain. We started working on the Comet back in mid-2022. This was peak semiconductor crisis. Our choices of components were severely affected by part availability and lead time. Even samples were hard to get. The SoC we really wanted was back ordered till 2030. We still persisted and went ahead with the development. The one you saw revealed at CES was the 5th revision of the Comet. Since we hit mainstream this Jan, we have been closely following all the feedback posted across all channels. Apart from tons of things you've loved about the Comet, our design choices focus on extensibility, repairability. There have been a number of misses which we really wanted to address. The easiest thing we could do was launch a pro version next year. But then it wouldn't be fair for the community and all our backers. I see myself as the target audience here too. So if I buy a version today and if a better version launches next year, I would not feel great about it, right? Or you would force me to buy a new one. Alternative idea was to release 2 versions together, but then it would increase our overheads for managing 2 versions in production. We spoke of this privately to a number of folks in the community and eventually came to a decision that even if it takes slightly longer, the pro version needs to happen today. Let's jump right in. The first and the biggest change I want to start with is we're changing the SoC. We're still in the IMX 8M family. We're just moving away from the Mini to the Plus. Since the launch, we have got some people at NXP interested, and we are happy to share that we are working closely with NXP India to make the Comet happen. The 8M Plus, like the Mini, is also a quad-core A53, which means the core performance still remains the same, and so does the efficiency, but it's a level up on a number of capabilities. You'll see. Let's talk about the GPU and memory. The GPU in the Plus is a big step up from the Mini, speed and capability wise. You can see the benchmark numbers are almost tripled. These are GL Mark II benchmarks. The Vivante GPU GC7000UL hardware also supports OpenGL ES 3.1 and Vulkan for modern graphics support. One caveat here is that the open source driver is still limited to ES 2.0 today. We don't want to use the proprietary driver because it doesn't work well with modern Wayland compositors. I had a chat with Christian Gemeiner a few months back about this. He's leading the ES 3.1 support for Etnaviv in Mesa, Etnavi is the name of the open source driver in Mesa for Vivante GPUs. The work is in progress and it may finish later this year. So by end of this year, we may see the OpenGL ES 3.1 and Vulkan support land into the Comet, which means that modern emulators and modern graphics such as the WebGL2 can also start working. For the memory, the Plus can now support up to 8 GB of LPDDR4 memory at an increased data rate. On the Mini, we were limited to 4 GB as the addressable memory, but on the Plus, we can now support up till 8 GB. We've increased the storage options further. The eMMC onboard is now being expanded to 64 GB. You can insert a SD card. We will support SDXC, which can go up to 2 terabytes. Like the current Comet, the new Comet will continue to support 20 to 30 NVMEs. You'll just need a B key to M key adapter though. I will explain this in a while. So this addresses introducing the SD card also addresses a challenge where if, let's say, you have a LTE module installed on the PCIe slot, M.2, you can still expand the storage using the micro SD. Cool, so the USBs get a big upgrade. We are now making the USB Type A's to Type C's with 3.0 support, which means they get a whole lot faster. The first USB will be dedicated high-speed port, not shared with any other peripherals, so you can get the full bandwidth of 3.0, which is, I think, theoretically it is 5 gigabit per second. And the second one will be shared with the Pogo pins, the PCIe slot, M.2 basically, and the bottom charging port. With the charging port also now supporting USB host capabilities, there can be all sorts of docking accessories possible. Now, with the Plus, we are bringing in one of the most asked features. The new Comet can support display out natively. It's a core capability of the IMX8M Plus. We are using the mini version of a popular port, which I won't name here for potential licensing issues. The Mini is better than its Evil Micro, and if you notice, it fits really well with the Type-Cs on the side. Hashtag aesthetics. The PCIe on the new Comet. Now let's talk about the PCIe. We do have upgrades there. The PCIe now is 3.0, making it faster than before. This means your NVMEs will run at even faster speeds. We're moving from M key to B key. There's a very positive discussion on Discord where people introduced us to B plus M compatibility, and then we got into understanding this further. And for some ungodly reason, M.2 as a standard has multiple key forms with different pinouts: A key, B key, E key, M key, namely. M key, which we had in the current Comet, is only used by NVMe SSDs. So a number of you wanted us to support LTE on the M.2 slot, but from a pinout point of view or from an electronics design point of view, this would not be possible because M key does not support USB, which most LTE, 5G, or even LoRa modules require. So most modules require USB, and that's one of the reasons why we have to change from M key to B key natively, which means we can support B or B plus M key modules out of the box, but for M key, you'll need an adapter. These are very low cost and inexpensive adapters which convert a 2230 NVMe SSD to 2242. So you just attach the adapter inside the B key and it will give you the M key. Now this is possible because M key only needs PCIe, whereas B key has PCIe plus USB combined, but the vice versa is not possible. If you notice carefully, we also have support for 2 more sizes for the modules. You can now attach 2242 and 3042, which means you now have access to a lot more available modules, right? So most of the networking modules that you see today for 4G, LTE, 5G, or even LoRa, they're all standardized to 3042. We have made enough space on the Mecha Comet's main board to give you space to attach those modules out of the box. This also means that we don't really have to build our own modules. We'll be recommending few modules from our end, but you are free to choose a module which you may have already tested with or works best in your region. Okay, let's talk a bit more about LTE. LTE was a huge ask by everyone. We didn't really plan it so well in the current revision. Our plan at the time was to have a custom extension for LTE using the USB on the Pogo pins. The challenge being you can't use any other extension in that case. The new Comet will now support existing modules as discussed. Most of the new modules do have eSIM support, but I'm not very confident how fair does the eSIM support work in Linux, as well as how many countries also do support eSIM, right? Like it may be a telecom, a telecom kind of a thing, right? Like some telecoms may support eSIM or some may not do that. So as a fallback, we have a SIM card slot available, which is combined with a SD card. It's in a tray kind of a form factor. The LTE module needs 3 antennas, the primary, the diversity, and for GPS or GNSS. We are working with antenna design companies to optimally place all the antennas required on our middle tray with UFL terminations. They will be similar to the antennas that you see in mobile phone kind of devices such as the Fairphone or the Pine phone. They all will have UFL terminations, so you can just DIY and install them on your own. 5G support is also possible, but we are not sure of the antenna requirement yet. We are still exploring, but it may or may not happen, but LTE is definitely part of our requirement now for the Mecha Comet, the new Mecha Comet. If we talk about LoRaWAN for Meshtastic and decentralized communication use cases, LoRaWAN modules are available over M.2. We are adding support for MMCX, which stands for Micro Miniature Coaxial Connectors for external antennas. There are SMA to MMCX adapters also available, but we still have to test their durability, which means you can easily have an external antenna connect to the Mecha Comet, and using a UFL or an IPEX to IPEX cable, you can hook up your LoRaWAN module to the antenna. This could possibly used even for LTE. The way we are designing this MMCX connector is that it could work for either the LTE or even Wi-Fi. So you can get better range. All right, another application of M.2 is accelerated AI. With the new PCIe 3.0 and 2242 support, the Comet can also host the Halo 8L accelerator, which you may have seen as part of the Pi-Fi AI kit. The Halo compared to Coral is a modern accelerator with 13 tops compared to 5 tops on the Coral, and it supports modern ML frameworks such as PyTorch, Onyx, apart from TensorFlow. The 8M Mini didn't have an ISP on board, so we were limited to using older cameras such as the OV5640 5 megapixel with ISP combined. The new Comet with the 8M Plus can now support modern sensors up to 16 MP. We are planning to use the Sony IMX 8MP camera, which is quite high definition, supports better resolution, and it is just a better camera. It's also popularly used with Raspberry Pi and I think Arduino. The 8M Plus also has an onboard 2.3 TOPS NPU. Its open source support under Teflon as part of Mesa just got merged last year, so you can leverage the NPU also with the open source driver and use some of the models such as the MobileNet and a couple of them. The more advanced AI accelerator and an onboard NPU combined with a better camera can make way for more advanced machine vision and robotics applications with the Comet. Now, with all the features that we have added till now, you must have a question, where will the juice come from? The new Comet can now accommodate a 30% bigger battery. The new battery capacity is 4000 mAh. We have made room for it, and we have changed the spec from 3.7 volts to 3.85 volts, which is more of a standard on modern mobile phones now. So yeah, a bigger battery, 30% bigger. So we don't know how much power consumption is going to be there, but we still feel that compared to the 4.5 hours we were seeing on the previous Comet or 4 hours on full utilization, this number will shoot up to close to 6 to 7 hours. All right, let's talk about the Pogo pins. There was a discussion on Hacker News when we went on the front page about the durability of the male Pogo pins on the current Comet. This is something that came up on Discord as well. At the time, we argued that the Pogo pins were 20 pins together, and we only required 50% of their compression on contact. the extensions, which means that the wear and tear could be really limited, and because they were 20 pins together, it would have good strength. But at the same time, we noticed that the female contacts on the extensions were also not easy to hand solder. At the time, we were dependent on existing available parts, so we went back to the drawing board on this. With the new Comet, we are designing a custom 40-pin female connector that is 1.8 mm in total height. You can see that in the render. They'll all be female contacts, which means there is no moving part on the Comet, which also implies that there's no wear and tear. So the male extensions will now use a male part. We'll be offering a through hole apart from SMT versions, so you can easily hand solder them on the extensions itself. So in the worst case, or like an unlikely situation where the Pogo pins are damaged, it would be the extension that gets damaged and not the main board. So this is already in play. We are working with a custom Pogo pin manufacturer to design this this custom connector, and an equivalent male part is also under design. Lastly, on the dimensions, a lot of you like the chonk on the Comet. We also do, but we have gone ahead and improved the outer dimensions. If you notice on the image, the older Comet is 16 mm at its highest thickness. The new Comet is now 14 mm at its maximum, and the recess for the extension is now 2 mm instead of 1, which means that extensions such as the keyboard, which our current keyboard extension is 4 mm in thickness, will only extrude by 2 mm. We can't still make it flush, but it is a much better experience. Let's quickly look at a 3D print demo of it. It's a rough PLA demo. Now, to reduce the thickness, we had to let go of the Ethernet port. The Ethernet port wasn't part of our original design. In revision 1, we didn't have one, but then we realized that the networking would be limited to dual band Wi-Fi speeds, and USB 2.0 could only support 100 Mbps. This is when we decided to add Ethernet in revision 2. Now, with the decrease in thickness and a bigger M.2 slot, like support for 3042, we really don't have space available for Ethernet. Sorry, but at the same time, the USB 3.0 now on the Comet can support up to 2.5 gigabit Ethernet via adapters. The 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapters are a bit expensive, but the gigabit ones, 1000 Mbps, are quite low cost and easily available. Now let's look at the new Comet in 3D CAD view. We'll talk about some of the changes on the CAD on the physical form. Okay, so you can see the CAD of the new Comet. The dimensions, I'll quickly show the dimensions. The dimensions here have gone down to 12 mm. Roughly around 12 mm. The recess, if you notice here, is almost 2 mm now. On the sides, you can see two USB-C ports, a display out port of the mini size. There's a SIM card and a memory card. SIM card and a memory card tray combined on the top. On the sides, we have a small MMCX connector. This is the external antenna connector that could be utilized for LoRa or any other communication systems. On the back, if you notice, there's a bigger battery now. The battery goes all the way to the bottom. This was possible because on the base PCB, we moved away from the Type-C, like an SMT Type-C, to a mid-mount Type-C. So you can notice that the Type-C is mid-mount at the center of the PCB, so now we don't really need the battery to come to avoid the Type-C. It can overlap the Type-C. The battery is a bit raised, it is around 0.5 mm raised, so it's never going to touch the PCB. On this side you can see the M.2 slot, a bigger one which can accommodate the 3042 module. Our Allen key still continues to be here, we just switch sides. The battery connector remains the same conventional 3-pin connector. You can notice the MMCX connector here, it's a brass component, right? And it's also going to be SMT on the board itself. The speaker vent has been removed from the front, which means now you have space for our larger extension. You can notice the Pogo pins here, which are almost flush. These are the female contacts. If I hide this, you can see how small that the connector is. This is not an available connector. We had to design it for our own device. The speaker now is going to sit right inside, and the output is going to come from the vents just below the display. One of the things that we did try to accommodate here was the headphone jack. Unfortunately, during the design or the PCB design validation, we had to let go of it. We tried to fit it here, but the challenge with that is that, I'll just quickly come to the PCB. Like the USB-Cs and the display connector are here, so they will mostly require high-speed lanes. Now, having the headphone jack here would create a problem where the codec would be sitting right here. Because the speaker is here, we may have noise coming in from the high-speed lanes, and we didn't want to put the headphone jack here because then it would cause issue while using the display. You would have to wrap your fingers around the headphone jack. While we have tested Type-C adapters which are easily available, you can use the second Type-C to headphone jack and use the audio coming from the USB. Also, just a small update to add here, the speaker is sitting here, and as part of our original design, the mic were available on the top. The new mics have now been moved in the bottom. They are somewhere here, just on the left and right of the USB. They are dual digital microphones. Also, we are introducing an ambient light sensor on the top, and an RGB LED indicator, which was already part of the Comet, will also be on the top, on the right side of the display. And this is where the SIM card tray goes in. You just put a pin in, and the SIM card and the memory card combined tray can be inserted right from the top. This is still early on. We've just started the PCB design. Things may change from here on, but this is the design that we are currently working on. We'll get back to the slides, and we'll take a short break before moving to the next item. Placeholder. Start. All right. Now let's get back. We have one more thing to add here. Yep, we are doing this. The new Comet gets a big upgrade on its display. We are moving to an AMOLED display. The outer dimensions still remain the same, but the new display is 30% bigger in terms of screen area. Our existing Comet had a 3.4-inch display. The new one is now close to 4-inch with 3.92-inch to be precise. The brightness is now doubled to 550 nits, and the display resolution is now 1080 into 1240 at 419 ppi. Now the slides won't do justice. Let's look at few demos on this. We received the new display a month back. It's still an HDMI module. We have been testing it with a mini Linux-based PC. Since then, we have been updating our MCTK framework to support native scaling from Wayland. You can see some of the demos here, our GUI scaled on the display, the website, and even our teaser running on it. Let's look at a comparison. We just placed the display on top of the 3D printed prototype. On the left is the revision 5, which is the current Comet, and you can see the new display on the right. This is something we have been so proud of. It's an AMOLED display, which means it is thinner, it's more power efficient, it doesn't get as hot as an LCD one. So this is also going to reduce power consumption and increase the battery life. And you can see the size of the keyboard is also significantly bigger. The current display is 60 x 60 mm, and the new display is 65 x 75 mm. So it's not a perfect square anymore. It's still a rectangle, but not exactly in a 16:9 ratio. Let's look at one more video. Colors, we really love the colors. I think the video may not do as justice as what we see in front of us, but yeah, this should give you an idea. All right, this wraps all the updates on the Mecha Comet. Now we can start talking about the timelines. Now on Discord, I've constantly iterated that we have cracked the excitement part, and now comes the usability part. Like I mentioned above, Comet equals to Comet plus 1. We want to give the best hardware that we can possibly build. Now this means that we will have to expand our timeline. We are expecting the first prototypes for the new Comet to be ready by end of May. We'll keep everyone engaged with the development on Discord and email. We don't have the exact timeline for starting the Kickstarter yet. I personally want to wait till the new Comet is ready and we can show it to you completely in action. We can send out some devices and then start the campaign so that we can ship early. Like I have discussed before on Discord, that we are not entirely dependent on Kickstarter. We are externally and internally financed to build and go to production with the Mecha Comet. The Kickstarter just helps us size our production batch. So we don't want to start the campaign early and then delay the shipments. We rather start the Kickstarter at a point that we can ship quickly. Most of the production related items such as the pre-certification, the certification, and the tooling for building the parts is already done, and we are able to start ship soon after the Kickstarter campaign. The new Comet will have a slight increase in the pricing. We don't have an exact number yet, but we expect it to increase by 15 or max 20% for the pre-orders. I also want to touch base today about the pilot program. We have received close to 1,000 applications from all over the world. In fact, our initial target was we'll probably have close to 100 applications, and I have personally read each and every application that people have submitted. These include maintainers from major distros, the Linux kernel, and from folks working at companies such as Canonical, Meta, Google, Microsoft, apart from enthusiasts, hackers, and students all over. We don't have a lot of updates yet for the pilot. In March and April, we will be prioritizing some of the available pilot units that we have for the revision 5 or the current Comet. We plan to ship them to users who can start building on open source extensions. So by the time that we start our Kickstarter campaign, there can be a number of community-driven extensions already in play apart from our standard extensions. Later in July, we plan to ship close to 50 to 100 units worldwide for expanding software support, upstreaming the Mecha Comet, and even end-user testing before we start shipping the production units. So just stay tuned. We know you have submitted. We really want you to get the test devices. We want your feedback as well. We are just timing it properly based on the new Comet's production and design schedule. All right, I'm very happy to share that we have published our first set of docs for the Mecha Comet. You can check the docs at developers.mecha.so. The new docs include getting started guides, the pin diagram, building the bootloader, kernel, flashing the device, and building the rootfs. We've also published our CAD files for the current Comet as promised and have made resources available for all the extensions. Please do check it out. Let us know your feedback. It's all on our open source repository, mecha-docs on GitHub. You can either raise an issue, you can send a pull request, talk to us about Discord. We will keep updating the documentation further as and when we get more things done. This current documentation is for the current Comet. Once we have the prototypes ready for the new Comet announced today, we'll start reflecting the docs about it as well. All right. Now done with all the updates and announcements, I will now try answering some questions that have come up on the live chat. Can the on-screen keyboard be changed to other layouts? This is something that we have documented on our on the developer site. We are backwards compatible with Quickboard in terms of the layouts. So you can just create a new layout file. It's, I think, based on a YML or a TOML format. If you create the new layout, the keyboard can pick it up. And yeah, you can have a custom layout. Guys, if it is possible, I'll do a hot swap batteries. You can. Actually, the way the Comet is designed is if you have the power running externally, you can swap the batteries. And the connector is quite available. You can even put a bigger battery and print a larger case for it. I'm not entirely sure what did you mean by hot swap, but maybe this is what I assumed. How will the OS updates be applied? So we have our own private Debian repository for all the packages. The base packages will still come from Debian stable. We may have a Debian unstable image also published. Now, our repository is set at a higher priority. We add our custom packages. We override some of the packages on the Debian repo, such as the Google Chromium. The Chromium for the Mecha Comet is a customized Chromium. We have removed some of the things that are not required for a small screen device or a touch, and even added some of the touch-based features for Chromium. Now, that's a package that is overrid on our Debian repository. And we will keep releasing updates to the Debian repository, and they will be linked to the releases on GitHub. We are still exploring a more strong and a solid update system for it. Once we have more updates on this, we will publish them on the community and also make it available on the docs. The only thing I really hope is that doesn't come with anything big tech by default, like Facebook and WhatsApp or apps you can't remove. No, we don't plan to publish or install any pre-default apps. Any apps that will be part of the base Mechanics OS are going to be standard utility apps that you would expect. More importantly, the OS image generation is also open source. They are just a bunch of shell kind of scripts. We write them in new shell. You can always fork the repository, change the configuration, remove any pre-default apps that do come installed, and build out your custom image. Mecha, how about repairability? Can we expect spare parts? Now, this is an important item, and what we plan to do is we will update the spare list on our website. As soon as we list the Kickstarter, we want to maximize all transparency possible. Now, because the device can be opened very easily, you can just use the Allen key to open up the device. Replacing parts should be fairly straightforward. One of the things that I would like to add here is that even the display is not stuck using adhesive. You don't need any fancy tools to even replace the display. And on the AMOLED display, we are also adding a 1.1 mm thick tough glass, like a toughened glass as well, so that it can give you some sort of a drop protection or even scratch resistance. But the part replacement should be fairly easy. We will ensure that we are able to stock them and we are able to ship them. We will also make sure that they are all economically priced, right? We do want you to continue to use the Comet, so we don't want to do the consumer tech approach by making spares really expensive and unavailable. Will the Comet be offered with a tempered glass screen protector? Like I said, there is already going to be a covered lens which is going to be a toughened glass. You should be able to add a tempered glass screen protector on top of it. We are yet to explore. If we find, we are not planned yet for it. We have planned for a full body case, like a silicone rubber case, but we will look into a tempered glass also. Thanks for the feedback. Are the extensions going to change much with the new Mecha Comet design? The extensions as such will not change, just the female and the male Pogo pins get swapped. The extensions shown till now are still early in design. From this month, from March, we are going to start heavily focusing on the extension. We'll have some more announcements in April specific to the extensions. We want to expand the functionality on the keyboard. We want to expand the gamepad further. We plan to build this along with the community and share our plans early on, get everybody's feedback as well. So the idea is the next quarter will be more focused towards the extensions, while the base PCB, the new Mecha Comet's main board, gets into design and production. You said this was the first event. Can we expect more? Yes, definitely. You can expect more event. This is a first time for us, and we definitely plan to do more of these. With the extensions now using custom Pogo pins, how will custom extensions source the right ones? Would standard male Pogo pins be compatible? So we are using a 2 mm pitch for our Pogo pins. So as long as you are able to place standard male Pogo pins at a 2 mm pitch, even they may be individual pins also, you should be fine. We will be making a kit available for building custom open source extensions, a very low cost kit which will give you all the standard parts and also a base PCB for you to test with. And yeah, as long as you are able to solder 2 mm ones or find a connector that is at 2 mm pitch, you should be fine. The ones that we will provide will be at a smaller thickness, of more low profile versions, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you're able to establish contacts with the female contact pads, you should be fine. What's the power as compared to Raspberry Pi? Can it compete Raspberry Pi? Which version? So with the Mecha Comet, the priority is on efficiency. The A53 cores are super power efficient compared to the A72 cores. We have just published some benchmarks on our website, on our doc site. You can just go through that. To give a straight answer, the Mecha Comet lies between the Pi 4 and the Raspberry Pi 3. We are more closer to the Pi 4 in comparison to the Pi 3. We don't have benchmarks for the 8M Plus yet. Maybe because of the improved RAM data rate, we may see a further improvement. But the good thing is that the efficiency is really high on idle, even in the current Comet, on idle with just the display on, the consumption is close to 1.5 watt at 5 volts. What extensions will be available at Kickstarter launch? So currently our plan is for the 3 standard extensions, the breakout board, the gamepad and the keyboard. Their designs, as I said before, are going to get further advanced, and we have already open sourced the design on our doc site just today. You can go check them out, and we'll keep that updated as and when the design expands further. We may do more extensions, but right now the plan is to do 3 standard extensions. Is the Bluetooth Wi-Fi module external or inbuilt? The Bluetooth Wi-Fi module is on board. We are looking at a potential Wi-Fi 6 module. It is still not confirmed, but we are at a part selection point of view right now. We are looking at using a U-Blocks or a Murata part for the Bluetooth Wi-Fi. It will remain on board, and there will be an internal antenna support for it as well. How much does it weigh? So the Comet today weighs close to 220 grams. Now, out of which 27 grams is the current LCD's weight. The AMOLED is at 9 gram. It will add some weight due to the toughened glass on top of it, and the battery is also slightly bigger, so you can expect the weight to be roughly between 200 and 220 grams. Last question, what about the Pro version? So this is the version we are going and launching with. We don't have any plans for a Pro version in very near future. There may be a new Comet after few years, which will be like a generation change. It also depends on the kind of SoC available and the level of open source and support that the SoC is also offering, which is very critical to us during part selection. Any more questions? Yeah, you can join Discord for more queries. Keep the conversation going. I'll be more than happy to answer. That's it. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Your participation and involvement keeps us going, and we hope to bring in more updates in the coming months while we get the Comet out there. Hope you all had a great time. I hope we met all your expectations. Please keep the conversation going on YouTube or Discord. We would love to hear your thoughts. We keep reading everybody's comments. I would also like to thank all the women joining the live stream, wishing you all a very happy Women's Day. Thank you again. Until next time, see ya.